Okay, so today we're going to start with our first lesson, which is the review of factoring in quadratic equations. This is review of topics that you have done in your previous math courses. So we will be taking a look at trinomial factoring, our GCF, which is greatest common factor, and difference of squares. However, before we start on that, we want to talk about why should we learn factoring. So it starts with everything about solving our for x in equations. So solving equations which has a variable x or any other variable in it. In the past, we have done things like this, where your degree is just 1 for your variable. We call that linear equations. And you would use isolating variable over there, meaning that you can isolate your variable by taking everything to the other side. Done. You could do it with a little bit more complicated equations where things could be distributed on both sides. And you could say, okay, I'm going to collect my like terms. And then you'll take the 15 to the other side. So this is still isolating the variable because we are solving for x. So isolating variable works in these kind of scenarios. What doesn't work is when you have something that is a polynomial with a degree of 2 or more. So let's say you see something like this. We can't do this by isolating. So even if you try to take things away from x, we can't seem to do that, because what are you going to do with x, which is in both these terms? You can take that out, but still you can't take this out. So this polynomial, this is a polynomial. So if you remember, polynomials are things which are terms which add or subtract. The idea is to factorize this, and that's a method that we are going to focus on. Factorizing means turning something that is in addition subtraction relationship into main operation becomes multiplication, so that these are now called factors. So there's one factor, there's another factor. So that's where the name factorize comes from. So we're changing that into something that is in multiplication. And this is going to give us the tools to then go ahead and solve this equation. So that will come later. So the first step that we're learning, so this is an in-between step. So a lot of times students say, why do we need to learn how to factorize? Because this is the first step to solving for x. Okay, now what it would look like is something that, again, comes much later, but this is what ends up happening. So we are not learning this for a while, but this allows us to solve for x. We could not do that if we don't know how to factorize it. So that's why this step becomes a really important in-between step in order to actually solve anything that has a degree 2 or more. So as long as the degree is 1, we can isolate. But once the degree goes over 1, so then we need to learn how to factorize, so that the next step, if we need to solve it, we can learn how to do that. Okay, so that's what we're going to do, and we're going to start with the examples in the book.